his mother, Ms. Ethel Osborne, with us, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the early days of Doc's life and her life with him. And as she talks, if you have a question, if you'll just raise your hand, I'll recognize you and let you ask your question. Well, really, she needs a point to start from maybe where she was born. Okay, Ms. Osborne, if you will start by telling the children where you were born and something about your family, and then they'll go from there.
I was born in Knott County, in Hartsville. Oh, I forgot you know that. And in May 1902, I'm going to talk to you. You sit with her.
There's another chair right there by her.
Oh, I just automatically turned my head.
Okay.
The camera. Now what is? Where and when?
You said 1902. How many children in your family? How many brothers and sisters?
Two brothers.
Two brothers? All right. When did you first meet Dr. Osborne?
I guess 1926.
The first time you ever saw him?
Won't forget that. First time. Well, up as we arrived, we used to have recreation fountain. They called it the soda fountain. And I was in there. Doc come riding up through the middle of town on a horse with hand-riding suit, leggings, and hat. I thought it was the best looking man in the world. That's the first time.
Well, did you talk to him at that time, or did you just
Don't
see him?
remember if I met him that day or not. But that's where I met him.
Where was Doc born?
Martin, Kentucky.
Martin, Kentucky. Was he from a large family?
8 children.
8 children. Where was he educated? I mean, where did he study to be a doctor?
Louisville.
Louisville. Where did he go to high school?
East.
Louis.
Well,
Why?
we didn't have any high school in Florida County.
At that time, you didn't have high school?
No, we didn't have high school, so we went to East.
Okay.
You want to just open it up to questions?
Yeah, if the kids have some questions, I'm sure that there's many things they'd like to know about his career and Ms. Osborne's life with him. So if some of you will begin to ask her some questions, it might help. Beth.
How long were you married?
Well, let's see. We married in 1927. 31, I think 31 years.
Any other questions? One of the things that we've been talking, okay, back here somewhere?
What equipment did he have to work with? What medical equipment?
We have a student back there who wants to know about his medical equipment, what he had to work with in the early days.
Well, he didn't have an x-ray. We just had the equipment to use in the office. It's like had electric artery and blood pressure. Can't think of the name of the thing. What do you call them?
I can't pronounce it, so
We won't worry about it.
And scales, and he had I can't think right now. Just the usual things, not much.
Just the general.
But lab, he had a few things in the lab.
Well,
that you use out in the country.
Did he often have to pull teeth, maybe act as a dentist as well?
Oh, sometimes.
What did he use?
Somebody get through it. He used the faucet for pulling teeth, and I had one down home, and I intend to bring it, and forgot it. I run off there with everything.
They give me one.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Can you
No.
describe? Can you
can you describe what it's
how he
like?
did?
It hurt, of course.
They didn't use no cane?
No, didn't use anything, and a lot of times you meet somebody as he's traveling up and down these halls, somebody with a toothache, he'd pull her tooth, sometimes pull her tooth while he's on his horse.
Oh.
Jack, here's a question.
Did he treat broken bones the same way?
Yes, he set the bones, use splint, take them out. Back in those days, if you went to the hospital, you had to wait till the train went out of here.
How often was that?
Sometimes, once a day,
Was it different for today?
and, yeah. It used to be, in the beginning, I think they come up twice, and then finally they just come once. Used to be to go out in the morning, and then come back and go back out. So we got 2 runs.
You mentioned his horse. Did he do a lot of traveling to see patients on a horse?
In the early days, most all was horse.
Is that-
Well, it was in the beginning.
Wasn't it cold in the wintertime? Can you remember some of the bad winters when he had to go out? Anything, you know, how far did you travel on that horse?
Go to Bright Beaver, Pike County, McDowell, Ligon, Jats Creek, all these creeks around in the neighborhood.
Was he the only doctor at that?
No, we had Dr. Wheelwright and Dr. Webb at Vicksburg, which you remember.
But, well, I heard a story, and something about one of his horses, that he'd get to a certain place in the creek and they'd throw him off in the creek every time. Is that, what's the story about?
Well, that story I don't know. But there were, he was coming down Jats Creek one time. And his horse threw him. Maybe that might be in the section that the horse threw him several times.
Discuss how long he'd go when you go to deliver the baby or something.
Well, he'd do an OB case, and he traveled so many miles, and a lot of times it was horseback, so he stayed till the baby was delivered. Might be 2 days, might be 3 days.
He'd go to sleep and they'd wake him up when it was time to leave.
That's true too.
Uh,
He slept and eat with people who lived there.
I'll discuss how they paid him sometimes, when they paid him.
Well, one time he come home with banjo. And they'd give him different things when they didn't have money.
What did he charge to deliver the baby?
$10.
$10.
And of course, a lot of times, nobody paid him. He never got a penny for it. But he delivered the babies just the same. Talking about the cold winters, a lot of times his feet would be frozen in his stirrups. You have to knock them to break them loose. The winter was so cold and bad.
What would make him be so devoted? I mean, why would he do something? It sounds awfully hard to me. You know,
Well, he loved people.
he must have.
He loves to work with them.
Love children too,
And he loves children, he sure is.
particularly.
We heard one story on tape about some man had gone to see him, and I think he probably had, what is it, what's the disease that goes all the way around? Shingles.
Shingles.
And he said that Dr. Osborne told him to get the blood of a black chicken and to put that on it. And he said, I did, and he said it worked. Did he use the home remedies like that, the old-time remedies?
Not as I know of. That maybe Doc might have told him that, but that was an old remedy that people used. Whether it helped or not, I don't know, but Doc usually had something that helped.
Discuss, he had to keep his own medicine.
Oh yeah, he always didn't write prescriptions. He,
And I wonder if it's a question they thought about was it very difficult for him to get medical supplies in medicine in that time during the early days?
How did he come in?
come in on train. No, he had no trouble getting supplies and medicine.
You mentioned that they would send them out on a train to a hospital if they needed to go to one. What hospitals did they send them to?
Martin most of the time.
Beaver Valley.
Beaver Valley. That's where most of the people went.
Did he visit them while they were at that hospital, or did they find a new doctor?
Well, if he's down there, he would. But to make special visits, he didn't do that. Dr. Bolton and Dr. Ed was both there and both good doctors, so he didn't have to worry about it.
Mrs. Osborne, tell them how Doc used to fill prescriptions. I know he would write the medication that had to be given and everything, but at that time, it was, he bought it in like gallon, I can remember those big gallon jugs. And he usually sort of look at the person too and reach in with his hand, and your medication didn't come in little plastic bottles, in it was little paper bags, like an envelope. And he'd just reach in with his hand and pour it in, and, you know, like
Poor
that.
little,
And
poor
most-
little envelope
yeah.
full, that's about what he did.
And that was usually maybe, according, I think, how needy the family was. It might have been $1, it might have been $2, or as much as
He used
$3.
to charge $3 for Novascol. He'd give you some pills of some kind and a 6-ounce bottle of medicine. And plus the examination would be $3. So you can do that feeling.
Do you remember the longest time maybe that he was gone from home on a case or something? Just varied?
No, it would go 1, 2, 3 days. I don't think he ever stayed longer than 3 days.
Did he ever treat a gunshot wound? Were there many?
Plenty of
Plenty of them?
He usually sent them out to hospital, unless it was a minor.
What about mine accidents?
Well, they,
Men who were hurt in the mines?
if it was like injured, he would treat it. But if it needed to go to the hospital, he'd take care of whatever needed to be done before and send them out to the hospital.
I don't know, every Saturday night there was either somebody shot or somebody's head split open.
Shouldn't tell that.
Well,
We
that's part of it.
lived in terrible times.
Well, they-
That's true. You can remember some of that.
Well,
She's trying to put an age.
No, I'm not.
I remember Dad said that, and I don't know who might resent this, but there were some areas it was dangerous to even ride through or walk through anytime, but he said that you could always depend on someone getting a head split open or shot.
Yeah, that's true.
And I guess Doc wound up taking care of them.
Most times Saturday nights, I remember that.
Every big time somebody gets shot, cut, or beat up or something.
Did you know?
About how many babies he delivered.
I wish I knew. There's so many of them, I don't know. You know, in the beginning, you don't think about keeping a record of how many.
Would that be on file in Frankfurt?
Wouldn't it
Well,
be
up
in
Because
there?
most of these people had to get birth certificates for
Up
Social
until
Security and
28.
things.
Up until 28, they didn't send those reports all in.
But later, don't you have to have a birth certificate to get Social Security and things? I bet.
A lot of people would write in, get the blank, and get the proof from the Bible,
I know, but they,
from a neighbor,
but they
and
put
get
that,
one.
okay.
They recorded.
They have to put the document
Yeah.
in?
They I usually ask, isn't that a question on that? The doctor that delivered the baby, you know, since you mentioned it and you'd like to know, that might be a project for some of these students, maybe to at least move towards some kind of number through records and just to asking people, you know, through families. If you get some idea.
Has this question ever been asked? Do you know of any person that Doc ever refused medical treatment? Did he ever refuse?
One man.
One man. Well, I think if I remember correctly too, Doc didn't have a habit of sending out bills and duns to people.
Never
He was-
sent a bill in his life.
Never sent a bill in his life. I mean, if you wanted to pay him, fine, and if you didn't, that was okay too.
Why
The
did,
only,
why did he refuse the one man? I was curious.
well, he told the man he wasn't going, and of course the man was shocked. He asked him why, and he said, well, I've delivered 9 children, you never did pay me for one of them, so I'm not going. And he did go. That's the only person I ever knew of him refusing.
Can you, the man down below where Bill Johnson lives that had killed his wife, and he came and got Daddy to go, and you remember that?
That should be written down, I think. There's so many little
But,
things in that, yes.
He went in the house that was dark with the man, knowing he'd killed his wife, and stumbled over the woman.
There's cold chills on those. That's true. Well, I can tell you a little, maybe after later I might think of more.
Okay.
But he did. He was a mean, dangerous, overbearing man, which we can't call names. And he mistreated his wife so bad and beat her up and everything. Everybody expected him to kill her. So he come this time, and his wife, something bad wrong, he wanted Doc to go, so Doc went with him. And when he went in the house, it was dark. And he found his wife in the floor. I don't know, maybe he stoned over.
I think so. It seemed like it was that.
And she did. And there he was with this real mean, bad man, and he killed his wife. I don't know how Doc felt, but I know how I would have felt.
What happened? Did he turn the men over to the police? Or,
You do that, no,
He didn't do that.
You didn't? We didn't have.
If the police wanted him, he had to go get him. I can't remember. That's why I said maybe I could think of things later. I can't remember the details of what happened later.
Well, since you said the police, if they wanted them, they went to get them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Most times for sure.
Most communities had a sheriff, and a lot of them were killed.
If it was in Wheelwright, they had a police. The rest of the county was, they had to come from Bristol.
Do you remember who the sheriff was and where at?
Ma'am,
Do you remember who the sheriff was and where at?
that John Hall was the early one. That's what everybody called him, that John Hall. And, I guess Gus Little
That's their great-grandpa or something.
was the next one.
Mhm.
And then Hitchcock's was the next one. Now, I don't remember from there on back.
What do you remember about Dad John Hall? Do you remember very much about it?
Not too much. A few things, but not much. Few hearsays.
Well, we've heard that, I've heard that he was supposedly only killed a couple of men, and I've heard other tales. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard both.
Yeah.
And he's killed several. And then I've heard that he had him killed. So I don't know.
He has been in prison for 20 years, didn't he? Something like that.
I don't know if he's ever in prison. I don't know. I
Don't
doubt
believe
it.
so.
I
I
doubt
believe
it.
they went to prison.
Uh-uh.
Not, How long did Doc serve on the school board?
25 years. 25 years,
I guess.
His mom served, finished one term for him, and then you ran again and had one of your own?
I didn't
Just
run.
finished his?
Just finished it. I don't know. I guess 25 years. I forgot now the year it's first elected.
And why did he want to be on the school board? Do you think maybe because we didn't have a high school and we had to go to Louisa
He
himself?
felt like a lot of things should be done for our school. And you want to be elected to serve the you did. We didn't have high school. We did. I believe they talked 2 years at that.
Don't look at me,
I
I don't know.
forgot. That's been too many years ago, I forgot. But that's why.
When did high school start? Have you found that out? The high school wheelwright, when did it start? Have you found that out?
Which high school? No,
I mean, the one in this area, when did it,
First high school in this area.
Which was
I
that
can't-
town, right?
I
yeah,
can't remember.
uh-huh.
We've had it mentioned, I don't think we've had an exact date. No one's given us an exact date. But one man did call out.
Would that be under the Wheelwright Independent? Wasn't Wheelwright Independent at one time?
Not that I,
Not even in the very beginning?
not that I ever remember hearing about. Yeah, I don't know, I can't, I don't.
We were in school, but I thought it was county school.
How big was the high
I
school?
don't think so. I don't think it was just county. It was just town.
Let's have some more questions from the kids. Anybody got a question?
thank you.
How has your life changed over the years?
I guess it just changed with time. I went along with it.
She worked with him,
I worked with him for 31 years.
Get out of here.
What was the worst thing you ever saw in the doctor's office?
The worst thing? I don't know. I guess Mr. Elton's died. Mr. Elton's died in the office. From a car wreck.
seemed like I remember a baby dying that had, then things like diarrhea and things would kill a baby in 2 or 3 days. I mean, there was just no way.
They call it, what they call it, cholera morbus, and it was vomiting and diarrhea, and the baby wouldn't live more than 48 hours if you didn't get something done for it. Sometimes it's come too late. We had a lady waiting in the waiting room, and she had a heart attack and died. I guess those things are the most.
Working with Doc, did you, you mentioned Mr. Elkins dying in the office. Did you or did Doc often, sometimes in the cases of babies, and you did what you could, did you feel frustrated a lot and didn't have anything, did what you could, but...
Did what you could, and you had anxious moments, but I never did get too upset about it, because it goes along with the work.
What did you do for premature babies?
Well,
You prayed a lot, didn't you?
prayed a lot, I guess the only thing there was to do. It wasn't in the incubators. You just treat them like a normal baby.
Did any die because they were?
I guess they did, I can't remember any. But in those days, you had to treat them best you could.
Would it bother him a lot if he had a patient that died?
Well, of course, bothers anyone, but not too much. That's part of the work and part of the job.
Question back here.
Do you know of any of the babies that he delivered that are still living around here?
Well, I guess there's several, well, I know they are, but I can't remember them right now.
Yours was what?
My mother.
Her mother?
And my mother was named after you.
Her mother was named after you.
Just curious, darling.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's see, you know, the girl's not in here this,
I would think
I bet you-
40,
I bet you
45,
that-
anybody over that could have been
I
delivered.
bet you there's several girls in here whose mothers
I had a,
delivered.
students were helping me this morning, and, she was telling her dad about you visiting today and talking to the class, and, he mentioned that Doc had delivered him and his brother, and there was 9, I believe she said, in the family, and he probably delivered all of them.
My head.
I think he delivered all my dad's family.
Yes, there's some families in this neighborhood that you've delivered all the children.
12 of them.
12.
The 3 of them died.
What was the cause of most illnesses?
The boy back here asked, what was the cause of most illness?
This kind of thing. Well, usually back then we didn't have shots and things for babies, so they had the whooping cough and measles and mumps and
Probably infection for him, don't it?
yeah,
of
the usual
TB.
thing. A lot of TB, infections. We didn't have anything in those days for infections. So we just used the usual methods and hope for better.
For infection, they would,
We had pneumonia too.
that killed almost all time, didn't it, pneumonia? Back in the
A lot of
beginning.
time,
But
most
the
times.
infection, you would,
We didn't have any particular medicine for it.
pack in ice if it was an arm or something, we need to keep the infection from spreading.
We had
Just
something
keep
like,
the-
yes, we had something like what's called, in those days, blood poison, which was an infection. You'd pack the arm, hand, foot, or whatever, in ice to try to hold it down till you could give whatever medicine you had to have. I remember when the sulfur drug first came in being, that was the first thing we had for infection. My daddy had blood poison, started from the finger. They packed his arm to his shoulder in ice and give him those stuff, you know, and saved his life.
Well, then, blood poisoning or gangrene, just about, I guess that would be the death of a person since they didn't have antibiotics.
But if you didn't get in the early stage where you might freeze it or soak it in Epsom salt or something to try to draw the poison, that's out. If it got into your system, it killed you.
When did sulfur drugs, when did you get the sulfur drugs?
In the late 40s, early 50s, wasn't it? The late 40s, maybe?
When did the vaccines start?
I don't remember the year, honey.
Do you know about how many you had? I mean, when they first started coming out, do you remember? The ones that he did?
You mean the first ones? The first, let's see, the first thing I guess the first thing we used to get was typhoid and smallpox. That's the first preventative we had. Then I don't know which ones come next.
What type of house did you live in?
In the same house we live in now, that I live in now, except it was just plain wood house.
Before you married, what type of house?
Just a wood house,
Did you have
a barn and an old cabin.
Did you have your clothes?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have electricity?
Oh,
What?
well, we had electricity. Doc and I had electricity. But where I
And a
had
phone, and a telephone.
and a telephone. We had a bathroom. Telephone. We had all, but I had a modern computer.
Did you tell us about the house you grew up in, the law?
It was just, well, I didn't grew up in it, was born in it. It was a log cabin. And then later my dad built a new house. I grew up in it.
What was the house like inside that you grew up in? How many rooms? Could you tell us a little bit
A
about it?
kitchen, dining room, and 2 bedrooms.
And you said you didn't have electricity. What did you use for lighting?
Kerosene.
How did they get that in here? Did that come by the
That was in Knott County. Well, the country stores. You could always go to the store. You might have to walk the right horse, but you go to the
Stuff
store.
came in on
you
wagon,
can-
didn't it?
Yeah. And in those days, groceries and whatever that come into that section of Knott County come to Wayland by train. They'd take a wagon and go to Wayland and get all the groceries and all the merchandise and take it to different stores. Of course, they usually had the necessities.
Well, when Inland still had the store up here, their groceries, didn't it, come in on the train?
Well, you buy anything you
Because
wanted.
you always used to be
You buy
fresh.
anything you wanted
fresh
to
on
up there
Friday.
in the city. We never had any trouble after Doc and I. You could always get what you wanted. Because Wheelwright was
When did you get television?
honey, the years, I don't remember any of them.
That might be
I don't
50.
know. When you first come out, whatever year it was, so Doc bought a Crosley. No, that was radio. That was radio. I don't remember them.
Can you remember his first car?
Yeah, T-Mobile.
T-model? Did he buy it after you were married?
He had horses.
Wish I had it now.
Don't you do? I don't know what happened to him.
He had 2 horses. What do you call them?
Both of them are Dan.
Red Dan
Red
and
Dan,
Black.
black Dan. I rode the red one, he rode the black one.
Did you often go with him?
Quite a few times.
Is that right?
Then what size boot you wore?
I'm ashamed to tell anybody that.
Why?
Well, it's okay if I don't have to tell them where I'm at.
Okay.
Well, I was born at.
They release their boots not like that.
Yes, they were. Well, they were. They have them now.
Looks just like them, though.
Yes, that's right.
Any other questions?
When did he start his medical practice?
1924.
Uh,
Come to Wilkes-Barre.
tell them why he came to Wilkes-Barre.
Young Dr. Ball. Took a vacation. Dr. Rock's Campbell was doctor at Wilkes-Barre. Had a little, he had an office. Then they put patients on the train, take them to Martin. Then you could be hospital. You had the hospital.
What did, how much did Daddy get when he started working for the mining company?
Oh, that's when everybody paid over payroll, $1.50 a month.
Each man was
Each
paid.
man would pay $1.50 a month for his family.
How much did Daddy get, though?
He got the $1.50.
Oh, did he? Okay.
He got the $1.50.
I was somewhere he got working for $100 a month.
No, not as I know.
Was he ever paid in script?
I don't remember.
Are you-
No,
Yeah, script, right, script.
Real right,
Script,
you know,
yeah.
that they use for money, the script.
And that Wilkes-Barre, too.
I guess he did.
Yeah.
I guess he did. You know, you could always use it.
Yeah, I know.
Chester, did you have a question back there? Sure. Did you have a question?
Where was his office at?
The house down here on the hill above my house now was his office. That's why it's still sitting there.
That's why we can't tear it down.
But he would tear it down.
Did he treat as many patients in the office as he went around the city?
Didn't get that.
Did he treat as many patients at his office as he traveled to see as many?
Lot more, lot more.
At the office?
They come all day and night too.
There were no appointments. You may get there at 9 o'clock and leave at 4. I mean, if you wanted to see him. And he never got in a hurry,
first
so
come,
there was
first
never any
served.
hurry. If he got talking, you might stay in the office hour while everybody else
He always
ready.
talked to his patients. That's why everybody loved him.
Did he ever keep anyone in his office overnight?
A few times. One person in particular I remember was Dr. Boston from Berkeley. He had been to Wright Beaver doing some dental work. He was a dentist.
They travel.
And he traveled. And he also had an office in Berkeley. So he come by and stopped to see Doc. Can't remember if his nose was bleeding then or if it began then. Anyway, Doc treated him. He tapped his nose, kept bleeding, and he wouldn't stop. So Doc kept him two nights. One day, 2 nights. And time got stopped. Went on.
Who took care of him? Who took care of him? What time he was in the doctor's office? Did you have to do that, or
Well,
who acted
I
as a nurse would act for that?
Yeah, I just have. Did whatever necessary.
My doctor's almost as much as Daddy did, and now, even now, someone will call and say, "What can I do for this?"
Haven't done that for a few months,
Well,
but they
few
did
months, yeah.
for months after Doc died.
Huh?
Months, years after Doc died. They'd call and ask me. I was pretty good in those days. Now medicine's changed. We've got so many new things.
What would you often recommend in the early days?
It all depends on what was they described to me.
What did they give him for, like a fever?
Aspirin. Still aspirin.
What would Doc say was his most lasting contribution? What did he enjoy most? What did he do in life that he felt like would have been the best thing he ever did?
I don't really know. He did so many things.
We have a lot of people financially now.
Yes, he did that. He advised so many people, and he
Okay, we're
almost raised a dozen children in a neighborhood. And
gave money.
he gave money for always donations. He always gave those
Talking about the
things.
individual.
Individual.
A lot of people. I don't remember any of them, but he did. He would give people the money.
Well, I can remember one boy in particular. Richard
Turner.
Turner.
I had a teenage grandson. That's the only son we ever had. Till I got a grandson. Any other questions?
How weird thing. Okay, excuse me.
How many children are in your family?
3. I have 3 daughters, 3 granddaughters, and 1 grandson,
You got some more?
and 4 great-grandbabies.
Things being funny, the Richard Turner you were talking about, his grandfather got shot and killed down here in front of where the post office is. No,
No.
up toward,
And for Oscars.
close where Oscar Smith lives, down below where Ernie lived, Mr. Johnson, excuse me. And, I don't guess the man was shooting at him necessarily. They were walking, somebody said so. Anyway, the man shot and killed him. And I can remember them bringing him into the house. And years later, the fellow that shot and killed him, somebody shot. He later died, but when they brought him into Daddy's office, I guess the guy was thinking maybe Daddy wouldn't take care of him because he mentioned the fact of killing Harlan Turner.
That was my uncle.
That was his mom's uncle,
Father. Richard's father.
Richard. Yeah, it was Richard.
Richard's father.
So he runs a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody take care of his office what time he was gone on one of these trips?
On him myself.
Hester, she said she did.
What did they do if she was with him?
Sir?
What did you do if you went with him?
Oh, I just waited.
No, what he meant, if you went with Daddy,
What did I do?
what did who took care of the office, and there was
Oh,
nobody?
nobody. No, there was no one else.
They didn't have somebody to cover them like they do now.
Uh-uh.
What if there was an emergency up here and he was at somewhere else?
That was just the way it went, honey. I mean, if he was someplace else, then they either went someplace
Yeah.
else or they did without.
Go to Wheelwright or go to Wilkes-Barre.
There were still some other doctors around. The doctors at Wheelwright were on work for Inland Steel. And they're like, I don't think Daddy's was never cut through Inland Steel's payroll, so he was, I guess you might call an independent. And I guess Wilkes-Barre had their own
They had
doctor
their
that the
own
company
doctor.
paid for, and they each might have paid so much a month for that. But other than the very beginning, that didn't happen with Daddy. His was, even those that were paid there, a lot of people still came to him and paid him.
Mrs. Osborne, could you tell us some more about yourself? I mean, it must have been unusual for a woman to have worked alongside of a doctor. Could you tell us about your schooling, about how much schooling you had, about your parents, what they did? A little bit more about you. Because I think it's unusual what you've done.
Well, of course, my parents were farmers. In 1925, my mother come over here. My aunt run a boarding house. It's like the clubhouse uptown. But they call it boarding house in those days.
Who was it?
Up Wheelwright. And then Mom come over, and she run the boarding house for a while. Come move to Burton. That's down, yeah, you know where Upper Burton is. They, just above the substation, where the funeral home used to be, was a clubhouse, so, my mother ran that for years.
There used to be a funeral home.
Uh-huh, there used to be a funeral home.
There used to be one here in the junction,
Mm-hmm.
right down here.
Well, was it hard for you to learn what you needed to learn helping? I mean, did you have enough education? I don't know how much education you had.
Well, I went to Moorhead. And then those, in those days, instead of calling it high school, they call it normal school. And then I began to take, study nursing.
But in those days, didn't you qualify to teach?
Oh, yeah. That's when I went to Moorhead.
Okay.
But I didn't teach.
You want to tell them what you did up Wheelwright, really?
Huh?
You want to tell them
Oh.
what you really did up Wheelwright?
Well, yes, I never thought about that. That was in the Second World War, First World War, First World War, Second World War. The ladies did a lot of work so the men could go to the army, so I run the pool. And Rebecca Pickle, which Mr. Pickle lives over on Indian Creek now, her husband, his wife, and I run the pool for years till the war was over.
Or did you have any problems in there?
No, who?
No, Bad John Hall was policeman. Nobody.
They were afraid to do anything.
Nobody did get gone. No, it was okay. Everything was peaceable. Didn't have any fights or brawls or anything.
How big age is dim your memory?
Well, I mean, in Boone,
Okay.
didn't have any. I think age dims everybody's memory.
Well,
How about that?
working alongside Doc, I guess you learned much of what you got much of your
You
knowledge
learn
working.
by experience.
Any questions?
Did you ever take a vacation away from him?
Never took one with him for years and years. He didn't take one. He didn't take one. He just stayed home and worked. No, I never took a vacation without him.
Most of the miners you treated, were they just from falls, or, I mean, you know, what kind of accidents occurred in the mines, or how were the miners
Well,
injured?
I think that's about the same accidents as always happen in mines happen today. Which they have more machinery, but still, slate falls. So many different things can happen in mines that they
Was
get
there-
injured.
Was there an awareness in the early days when mining first started of the effect that the breathing, the problems with
They
breathing?
call it miners' asthma. That's what they call it then. You can,
How was it treated? I mean, was it just put up with, or was it treated?
there wasn't much to do. We didn't have much to do with it. So, we just give something to try to clear the lungs and something to give them some ease. That's about it.
Have you ever known of an accident where Doc had to go in the mines himself?
Just don't remember.
What can you tell us about his family?
No.
Well, they all lived at Martin. And just an average family.
So they had four girls,
Four boys.
they were all Height brothers and sisters.
It was raised on a farm, and then later, as Martin grew, there was, the farm got smaller and smaller, so
Tell him how much he made when he worked on the railroad coming up. 75 cents a day?
but he did, he worked on the railroad in the summer to go to school to study medicine.
Well, that's one of my questions. How did he earn the money, or did was
He
his
was
family?
building the railroad up right in their field. He always worked in the summer. Then later when that was finished, well, I guess that's 1 year. His stepfather was mine foreman most of the time. He'd always give Doc a job. He would do something around the mines for the summer to earn money to go to school.
So now,
And he borrowed the rest of it.
the railroad was 75 cents a day.
75 cents a day. Ms. Stumbo, any more questions or the students?
Well, I can ask questions from now until the end of the day. Probably we ought to thank Mrs. Osborne for coming up. I wish you would be, do you think you might be able to come back at another time? We'd love to have you.
Anytime I'm here,